Victoria Williams is an Aurora resident, entrepreneur, and a small business owner and a volunteer at the local fire department. Victoria also has extensive training in the marijuana industry and is the co-author of the Illinois Dispensary Training Manual. Welcome to the broadcast here today, Victoria. Tell us how important it is to have a unified training manual in the state of Illinois.
Well, it's very important because we want to make sure that everyone understands the regulations that the state has planned out for us.
Okay.
So we want to make sure we are all on the same page in regards to this highly regulated market.
Okay. And tell us about writing the manual.
Oh, so the manual started with, this is my stepdaughter,
Okay.
and I co-wrote this. It started out as a project that we gave her to do.
Okay.
And she struggled a little bit, and she, got a little frustrated with it. So then I chimed in and started helping her write it.
Okay, what education did you guys need for that?
Well, both of us come from two different educated backgrounds.
Okay.
Basically, what happened is the state of Illinois told us to provide training materials to them that we will be training on. And so then we created the manual and presented to the state.
Okay, and what steps go into opening and keeping a dispensary operating?
Well, for one, we have to make sure you can apply and qualify under the terms that the state has accepted.
Okay.
As far as keeping it open, I would not have the answers to that because I don't have a dispensary that is open.
Okay. So you just wrote the manual how it should be done. You don't know much about the, because you're not firsthand at that part. You're at a step above everybody.
I wouldn't call it a step above, but well, the manual here is basically the laws. It outlines the laws that they need to know and the quantities of limitation. For example, in-state residents can only have up to 30 grams. Out-of-state residents can have up to 15. So it's important that people understand, from the concentrate methods, how much that they can actually have, the security, the privacies, record keeping, all of those things.
And those are some little things that are a big deal. Just a couple grams could really put you in hot water.
Oh, yeah. So you can still be charged with a Class A misdemeanor for certain things in the cannabis industry. You also can be charged with a Class 4 felony for certain things in the cannabis industry. So you just have to make sure you are abiding by the law. But the bill is like 610 pages, and a lot of people get exhausted trying to read it. So we wanted to make sure we broke that down in a comprehensive way for people to understand.
Right, and who should take the class and be certified?
Everyone.
Okay.
Everyone. If you anticipated, coming into the cannabis industry, if you're on the fence, don't know what you're supposed to do, I recommend taking the class first because it gives you an idea of which direction you can go in. Once you understand the rules, then you know, hey, maybe I can do this or maybe I can do that.
Okay, and what are some early concerns that you have, you've seen so far in Illinois?
Supply.
Okay.
Supply chain management, yes. So the state, a lot of dispensaries have already ran through what they thought they needed. We did some great numbers. We broke records with numbers. And the fact is that it's not enough. It takes time to grow a quality product. Okay. And so we kind of ran out.
I gotcha. And now I understand you have tours of the dispensaries, right?
Yes. So as a trainer that is approved by IDFPR to do dispensary training, I also, once people come into my class and once they complete this and they get their certification, I offer them the opportunity to go on a dispensary training tour. And I linked with Starbuds because Starbuds would allow me to bring people into their facilities and do a tour and teach them how a dispensary is ran on a day-to-day operation.
And then tell me some more about Starbuds.
I like Starbuds. Starbuds is, one of those companies that is extremely diverse.
Okay.
And from what I've seen, I've gone in other dispensaries and I've trained other dispensaries. Right. And typically, there's really just one race inside of the dispensary. Or there's one race and then the one color person in the dispensary. With Starbuds, when you go in each and every Starbuds store, the entire staff is extremely diverse. It's a family-owned company, a Middle Eastern family, and their values is really strict on community based. So they do a lot of community service, a lot of community work. They even sponsored 10 social equity applicants to be trained by me for free.
Okay.
And that's not a requirement of the state of Illinois. It was something that Starbucks wanted to do as a way that they give back.
Okay, now you're also an author.
I am.
Tell us about Cooking with a Twist.
So it is Victoria LP presents Cooking with a Twist.
Okay.
And it is a recipe book, and it's a cookbook for cannabis-infused meals and desserts.
Okay.
So what's featured in there is baked apple French toast, hot wings, baked macaroni and cheese with bacon, sweet potato pie, hard candy.
Everything I enjoy in life. Now, what was the
Yes.
biggest challenge about writing a cookbook?
I wouldn't say I had a challenge writing. You know what? My biggest challenge was a cover.
Yeah.
Finding someone that can bring, and I took my iPad and I drew out what I wanted my cover to look like.
Okay.
And I couldn't get someone to come up with a cover that I felt like, all right, that's it. So
Okay.
the book was ready and I didn't have no cover.
I got you. Okay. Well, Victoria Williams, thanks for stopping by. Could people find out more about you? Could they get in touch with you?
Sure. So my contact information is accofillinois@gmail.com.
Okay.
You can also reach me at www.accofillinois.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as
Okay.
ACC of Illinois. And they want my phone number?
Oh, no, okay, you're good. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Send an email, please.
Okay, yeah. You may open up the wrong door with a can of worms with that you don't want.
Well, the state already listed it, so
Okay.
it's not like you can't have it anyway.
Victoria, thanks for stopping by today.
Thank you so much for having me. I
Okay.
appreciate
No
you.
problem.
Jackie Wilson said it was real petite. Gotta love you, darling, knock me off my feet. Let it all hang out, hang out. Let it all hang out, hang out. I don't need no coffee in my cup. Wow, got my soul wound up. Let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. Baby, let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. Shang-a-lang-a-lang, 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 shang-a-lang-a-lang. I'm in heaven, I'm in heaven, I'm in heaven. When you smile, when you smile, baby. When you walk across the room, make my heart go boom, boom, boom. Let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. Baby, let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. When you walk that way, honey child, you make my day. Let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. Baby, let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. Heaven, I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven when you smile. All right, John, talk to me. Keep going. I'm in heaven, I'm in heaven, I'm in heaven. When you smile, when you smile, when you smile.
Brian Burns is a lifelong Chicagoan, born and raised in the 5th District. He's an attorney working at the intersection of law and technology. He previously worked at 2 federal agencies in Washington, D.C., the CFTV and the FEC. Brian wrote a local law increasing civilian policies in Memphis. Right now, Brian is here to tell us more about his run for Congress here in Illinois. Welcome, Brian. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
I know you've come a long way from, you said you started off at college, you went to law school in Memphis, huh?
Yeah, Memphis, Tennessee. So it was a great 3 years down there.
Oh, I can imagine. It's just the culture's different down there.
Yeah.
know?
Have you been?
I've never been there, but I know a lot of people that have gone there, and they said they've really enjoyed the
great.
atmosphere down
Yeah.
there.
Blues music is fantastic. The barbecue's even better. So nothing to not like.
Yeah, and nothing you can not like here is running for Congress. Now, what made you decide to get into to run for Congress in Illinois?
Yeah, so I mean, I love my job. I love being an attorney in the business world. I've got a lot of hobbies. Love my dog. Takes a lot of time to run to Congress. The reason I'm doing it, it kind of breaks down to three things, right? So the first thing is there's major problems facing our society, right? The second thing is there's a ticking time clock, right? Climate change especially is something that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And then the third thing is there's not anybody addressing it with the urgency that I think that it needs to be addressed with. So, I was raised in a family where if you see a problem and if you're capable of fixing it, you roll up your sleeves and get to work. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing this.
Cool. So let's talk about some of the biggest problems you see facing us today.
Yeah, so I kind of like to break it down as far as there's a lot of things, wrong, right? I like to look at it as kind of like three major policy failures, all caused by kind of like one root cause. So the three major policy failures that we're looking at is, number one is climate change.
Climate change,
Right, so we're continuing to burn more and more carbon fuels. We know that we're shooting ourselves in the foot. This is the only planet we have, and if we don't fix that, then kind of everything else is going to fall by the wayside.
So with the carbon and climate change, there's that real thin line between being a productive society and going back to the Stone Age, right? How do you handle that without being too extreme?
Yeah, so I don't think there's really a trade-off there, to be frank. There is the carbon-based economy that we all grew up with. We have better options now, right? We've got wind, we've got solar, we've got a lot of different ways to power our future, and then just like individuals making just like choices for themselves can go a long way in making reducing their carbon footprint and making it so that we have a sustainable future for everyone. I really think we owe a debt to the youngest generations to make sure that we leave them the planet better than we got it.
Now, with carbon footprint, how do we really judge each person's carbon footprint?
So there's a lot of things that go into it. Things like how do you get to work every day, right? If you're taking public transit, you're doing a great job. If you're driving a Hummer every day, you're not doing such a great job. How often you fly to travel, that is another big thing. Your diet is really important. So the less meat that you can eat, the better. I'm not proposing that everyone turns into a vegan overnight. A lot of people, that's a great choice for them for health reasons and otherwise. But even just reducing meat intake, cutting out meat 2 days a week can really go a long way.
See, that's the thing that I think people don't realize is they think it's either all or nothing. Eat nothing but plant-based food and no meat. But then not even like 1 day a week. That would probably help out a lot. But see, that's the thing that people aren't really being told. As far as us, people at home. I'm the average person. I'm either being told you're messing up because you like technology, or or otherwise, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One little thing you could be doing could change your way of changing your footprint, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just cut out meat 1 day, cut out meat 2 days. Not only is it good for the environment, but most research agrees that it's good for your health. It's just a good thing to do for a lot of reasons.
And then what about solar power?
Yeah, so solar, there's been a lot of advances in the past decade, even in the past 5 years, bringing the cost per kilowatt hour down to where it's competitive with the older technologies. And if we make sure that we subsidize it in the right way, if we make sure that we're not subsidizing the fossil fuel industry, then the market can really take care of a lot of these problems if we just give it a chance to do what it's meant to do.
Now, also with solar power, if it's a cloudy day, everyone's like, well, then there's no power. But then you go to the other backup power, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you can have backup power. There's a lot of battery technologies that are coming online. Tesla has a home battery that you can basically put up on the wall in your garage, store electricity there, and then you can even be selling electricity back to the utilities when the prices are higher and you're not using it all. So there's a lot of really innovative solutions. I'm not somebody who thinks that the government should be telling everybody what to do all the time. I think that the government plays a crucial role in setting the right incentives so that people can make the right choice on their own, which I think they will do most of the time.
And then what about wind?
Wind, I'm a huge proponent of wind. I think it's, it's a great idea.
And what about, like they say some like birds seem to fly into the propellers. What do you say about that?
Right. So I mean, and any technology that you use, there's going to be some kind of a downside, right? And so I think taking on balance, the few birds who end up running it, it's on balance.
But
it's a lot
no
worse.
matter what you come up with, there's always going to be someone saying. And again, the people complaining about the birds may be the electric company themselves complaining that they.
I think the Republicans especially are really good at like giving these negative talking points about everything. I mean, Trump had the line about windmills causing cancer, right? And so if you listen to every word that comes out of everybody's mouth, you really have to think about where they're getting their information and whether or not they have any underlying motives, right?
And what I don't understand is why don't we just do a little bit? Mm-hmm. It's either all or nothing.
Yeah,
and that's the problem we run into, I think. Right?
Yeah. So I think that with regards to the environment, I think it does have to, and especially how we get our energy, I think there does have to be a kind of more urgent shift there, right? Because the scientists have told us that we've got 10 years to make a major turnaround. Or else the climate's going to reach a tipping point, right? If we get too much CO2 in the atmosphere, then you kind of start to hit these reinforcing cycles in the environment that make it really hard to come back from. So I do think we need to be very assertive in making a change so that the next generation, again, we owe them a clean planet. We owe them a sustainable planet.
Oh, definitely, and we owe it to ourselves too.
Yeah.
Who wants dirty air? Who wants dirty water? Who wants dirty everything?
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. And those have an effect on the climate. They also have a big effect on your health. So that's the second kind of major policy failure that I'm seeing. That's a concern for me is our healthcare system isn't looking out for everyone. Every year, about 45,000 people die just because they can't pay for their health insurance.
Okay.
My fiance is a doctor, and the story she tells me about people not being able to afford their health care, it's heartbreaking. We live in the richest society in the history of the world, and that 45,000, that breaks down to about one person every 12 minutes dying just because they can't afford their health care. So I think we need to fix that so that people have the freedom to just be secure in their health.
And how do we, is there a way to fix it? Is there a simple way, or is it a complicated way? What's the best way?
So for me, it's Medicare for all.
Okay.
It's Bernie Sanders has a good plan for Medicare for all. Every other industrialized country has figured out a way to make sure that their citizens can have health care. We can figure it out. It's just a matter of having the political will to do it. So, when we think about how our elections are run, the pharmaceutical companies, the insurance industry, the hospital lobby, all of these have a lot of impact on how our politicians are voting. And so I think that making sure that our politicians are working for us, make sure that they're framing the debate in a way that makes sense for us is crucially important. Americans have a very deep-seated distrust of government, right? Get your hands off my health care, that kind of a thing. But I think that if we frame it in a way that this is not a government takeover, all this is the government figuring out the most efficient way for us to pay for things. You can have your same doctor, you're going to have access to still the best hospitals and care in the entire world. You're just not going to get dinged with $6,000 out of nowhere for showing up at the hospital.
And what's the third big problem you mentioned?
Yeah, so the third biggest problem for me is this is unending wars that we're in.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm 33 years old. The vast majority of my life we've spent in wars that don't have a very clear purpose, and they don't have a very clear objective, and there's not any strategy for, even if there was an objective, how we get there, right? So we're losing a lot of American lives, but we're also losing hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians in these countries that we're bombing. So I think we need to step back and take a look at why are we there, and then get out as quickly as possible, because we don't need to have unending wars all over the world in a global war on terror, as they're calling it.
Right, and the thing is, there's just too many mindsets on why we should be in a certain area, and no one knows exactly why we're there in the first place, right?
Right.
Everyone's got an excuse why we're there, but no one knows what was the main reason.
Yeah, and I think this kind of comes back to the military-industrial complex that Dwight Eisenhower warned us of 40, 50 years ago. If the people making the bombs have an influence over the politicians, it's easy to see how we end up in endless wars. And so, the three policy failures that I mentioned, the climate, healthcare, and unending wars, all really come down to what I think is kind of the root fundamental problem that we need to fix, and that's how are we making our decisions in the first place? Why is it that a very small number of people are funding our politicians and then influencing all of their policies? So if we don't address how we're making decisions, we're never going to be able to solve the bigger problems.
Okay, and before we go, can you tell us about Democracy 3.0?
Yeah, absolutely. So Democracy 3.0 is my initiative, my plan for how do we redefine government for the 21st century.
Okay.
So to start with the name, Democracy 1.0 we can think of as ancient Greece, where all the citizens got together on a hill. You and me would debate, we would vote on an issue, and we would decide what the government's going to do right then and there.
Okay.
Right? So direct citizens making decisions, that's 1.0. Fast forward to early America, there's about 2 million people in the country. At the time our framers were designing our Constitution, they designed a representative democracy, where you and I don't have actual power. What we do is we vote for people who then are above us, and then they set the rules for the rest of the country.
You hope they do it.
You hope they do it in a
Right.
good way.
Right.
And in fairness, it's worked pretty well for the past 200 years. We've had steady progress on civil rights, on the economy, on people becoming more free and having a better quality of life. But what's happened in the past 10 to 20 years is the corporate class, the donor class, the lobbyists, the super PACs, the special interests have gotten so good at manipulating that system that that they've essentially got it to just work only for them, right? And it's
Okay.
no longer working for the normal people, for the regular guy. And things have kind of ground to a halt, not only in Washington, D.C., but in Springfield and in state houses all around the country. The influence of money is just having too big of an effect. So unless we address that, we're not going to get anywhere. So my idea for Democracy 3.0 is that we kind of go back to a system where you and I are, again, making decisions for ourselves, where the citizens have the power. And the way that we can do that is by leveraging technology, right? So if the framers were around now and they saw that we have email and text messages and phone calls, they would not have designed the Constitution the way that they did.
Right.
And so my idea is that we aim for a future 50 years down the line where we are making decisions as a group collectively without even the need for politicians. And so we get there incrementally. The first step for me is it's on my website, brianburns.com, what I'm calling the Direct Democracy Pledge. And so I'm pledging to my constituents that if you elect me, I will do everything in my power to be in a dialogue with you constantly. You're not just going to vote for me and then 2 years later see if you want to vote for me again. No, the second I'm sworn in, I'll be in a dialogue with you. Hey, I've got this vote coming up. They're thinking about going to war. I don't think we should go to war, but ultimately, you put me here. You, the people, have the power. Tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it.
Cool.
So that's the idea, and I think that small baby step can go a long way in helping us make better decisions.
Great. All right, Brian Burns for running for Congress in the 5th District.
Yes,
All right,
Fifth
Brian.
District.
Okay, there you go. And that Brian Burns, this is TVHams.com, is the official website of the Gentleman Grachowski Show. Find out more about Brian, you can go right there at TVHams.com. All right, Brian, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Who is a hippie who's happening all over this town? Carrying off the chicks with the message he's laying down. Who is the coolest guy? What is what I am? Fast talking, slow walking, good looking, my handsome. Chicks are making reservations for your loving so fine. Got them all screaming, yeah, they're waiting in line. Who is the coolest guy? What is what I am? Fast talking, slow walking, good looking, more handsome. Who is the coolest guy? What is what I am? Fast talking, slow walking, good looking, more handsome. Fast talking, slow walking, good looking, more handsome. One time. Fast talking, slow walking, good looking, more handsome. Well, now, oh, Mary Ann, baby, you sure look fine. Sure look fine. Now, oh, baby, I said you sure look fine. Sure look fine. Oh, Mary Ann, and I could love you all the time. Well, now, oh, Mary Ann, I said, baby, don't you know? Baby, don't you know? Hey, baby. I said, baby, don't you know? Now, don't you know? Now, don't you know, baby, that I love you so? Well, all right now. Woo, yeah. Let's talk about it, baby. Ooh, yeah. Well, now, oh, Mary Ann, can I take you home tonight? Hey, baby, can I take you home tonight? If you let me, baby, I'll make everything all right. Well, all right now. Woo, yeah. Well, I got a feeling running all day. Well, I'm ready as anybody can be. I'm ready as anybody can be. Well, I'm ready for you. I hope you're ready for me. All you pretty little chicks with y'all pretty hair, I know that you think that I ain't nowhere. Stop what you're doing. Come on